tonight. Swiss trap. Co-cabinet spokesperson Ramesh Patirana sees an agenda at play in the alleged Swiss embassy abduction.
We believe that this is an attempt to bring Sri Lanka to disrepute, so we don't want to, get into that trap.
Popular demand. UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe finally ends the waiting game and names an opposition leader. Patriotic struggle. Sri Lankans in London protest against the Tories' backing of a two-state Sri Lanka. New remedy. Sri Lanka's new cricket head coach says hard work is the only way.
I always say your intensity that you train with is what you take into a game. Excellence is my mantra.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Thursday, the 5th of December, 2019.
මේ සීන් එකෙන් කට් වෙන්න. ඇන්ටිජර් මවුත්වොෂ් සමගින් එන ක්ලෝස් අප් ජෙල් එක ස්ටෝරි එක ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න.
Hi.
Hi.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, bringing to you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world tonight on First at 9. I'm Indivari Amuatha, and in your developing story, following the alleged Swiss embassy abduction incident and the continued unwillingness of the embassy to produce the alleged victim to record an official statement with law enforcement officials, Co-Cabinet spokesperson Ramesh Patirana revealed the government's official stance on the matter, labelling the incident a move to bring the current government into disrepute in the eyes of the international community. Now, the minister added that the government has to tread carefully in its investigations to avoid antagonizing the international community and falling headfirst into what he termed a trap set by elements with vested interests. He made these comments at the weekly cabinet media briefing held this morning.
With investigations continuing in order to ascertain the truth behind the alleged Swiss embassy abduction incident, Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Ramesh Patirana today shed light on the government's official opinion on the issue, with the victim still unwilling to come forward to meet investigators.
So government has reassured the safety of the alleged victim, and also we have requested them to come forward and make a statement for which they are not complying with. So we reassure the international community and also any party related to this particular incident that we want their cooperation, and we want to ensure that there is an inquiry which is very transparent. We believe that this is an attempt to bring Sri Lanka to disrepute. So we ensure that we carry out a very impartial investigation to ensure that all the stakeholders are happy at the end of the day. This particular person is not known to anybody. We haven't seen, nobody has seen her, so there is no evidence. But we don't want to, probe into this unnecessarily to upset the international community. This is the ulterior motive behind this whole issue, we believe. So they want to, antagonize the Sri Lankan government partly. So we don't want to, get into that trap.
In this backdrop, Senior DIG Ajit Rohana revealed that so far investigations have uncovered no evidence of any such abduction on the reported date and location.
අපි ඒ තැනැත්තිය කවුද කියලා විමර්ශනයෙන් හොයාගත්තා ප්‍රථමයෙන් මේ හොයාගෙන විමර්ශන කරගෙන යනකොට දැන් ඒ කියන සිද්ධිය උනාය කියන 25 වෙනිදා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් හවස 4:00 6:00 අතර කියන කාලේ යම් යම් දත්ත විමර්ශන අනුව ඉතින් එහෙම සිදුවීමක් වෙලා තියෙන බවට දැනට අනාවරණය වෙලා නැහැ. ස්විට්සර්ලන්ත තානාපතිතුමාට ඒ ගැන දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඉතින් අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම ඉල්ලා හිටින්නේ මේ වින්දිත තැනැත්තියගේ ප්‍රකාශයක් සටහන් කරන්න ඉතාම අවශ්‍යයි.
Meanwhile, an organization named the Foundation for Public Responsibility filed a complaint with the United Nations Human Rights Commission in Colombo, accusing Swiss Ambassador Hans-Peter Mock of holding a Sri Lankan citizen in need of medical assistance at the Swiss Embassy compound in Colombo, a charge they claim is against the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations.
දැන් මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා තානාපති කාර්යාලයේ සිද්ධියත් එක්ක අපිට පැහැදිලි වෙන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා තානාපති කාර්යාලය නාට්‍ය හා රංග කලා පාඨමාලාවෙන් ෆේල් කරුණා කරලා ශ්‍රී ලංකා තානාපති කාර්යාලය අඳවගෙන ඉන්න ඒ කාන්තාව අපේ රටේ අධිකරණ පද්ධතිය ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
Gel scene action. Anti-germ mouthwash සමගින් එන close up gel එක ස්ටෝරි එක ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න.
As the UK's Conservative Party election manifesto continues to draw flack for seemingly supporting a two-state solution in Sri Lanka, similar to that of the Cyprus. A group of Sri Lankans living in the United Kingdom also demonstrated in protest of the sentiment. Now, the protest demonstration was organised by the British Lanka Forum, orchestrated by its founder, Janaka Alahaperuma. They conducted a protest against the reference made to Sri Lanka in the Conservative Party's manifesto, which was launched in the run-up to the general elections. The protest was held in front of the Labour Party head office in London yesterday. The protesting Sri Lankans claimed the Conservative Party leaders are LTTE supporters. On page 53 of the Conservative Party's manifesto, it said, quote, "We will continue to support international initiatives to achieve reconciliation, stability and justice across the world and in current or former conflict zones such as Cyprus, Sri Lanka and the Middle East, where we maintain our support for a two-state solution," unquote. Sri Lankan High Commissioner in the United Kingdom, Manisha Gunasekara, addressing a letter to the co-chairman of the Conservative Party on the 27th of November, emphasised that this distorted reference is unacceptable and that it only allows for abuse by anti-Sri Lanka elements with vested interests who have for many decades supported LTTE terrorism in Sri Lanka and continue to undermine efforts at reconciliation. However, the Tories said that the two-state line in the section was intended to refer only to the Israel-Palestine situation in the Middle East, not for Sri Lanka and Cyprus.
දරුවාගේ අස්ථි ප්‍රතිශක්තිකරණ පද්ධතිය සහ මානසික ක්‍රියා නිසි පරිදි පවත්වාගෙන යාමට දායක වන කැල්සියම්, විටමින් C සහ යකඩ අඩංගු මයිලෝ සමගින් පෝෂණයෙන් ඉදිරියට.
ඕනෑම ප්‍රමාණයක ටීවී සඳහා 50% දක්වා වට්ටම්. දිවයින පුරා Soft Logic සහ Soft Logic Max ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරවලින්.
UNP leader and former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today nominated the name of Sajith Premadasa as the new opposition leader, following which Speaker Karu Jayasuriya had accepted the letter sent by the party General Secretary conveying the decision. Although the issue of opposition leader is now resolved, the question surrounding the party leadership is yet to come to a resolution, as some party members want Premadasa at the UNP's helm.
Meeting of the UNP Parliamentary Group was worked off today under the patronage of leader Ranil Wickremesinghe to decide on who the party will promote as the opposition leader. With the commencement of the meeting at the party headquarters in Sirikota, a group of members from the Young Bhikkhu Convention of the Tri-Sects handed over an epistle to an official of the party requesting not to give nominations for MPs who were disrespectful towards the Buddhist clergy. The meeting went on until about 4 p.m. and former Prime Minister and leader of the UNP, Ranil Wickremesinghe, had nominated Sajith Premadasa to the position of opposition leader.
ඔය මේක ලොකු අභියෝගයක් පක්ෂ නායකත්වය සම්බන්ධයෙන් එන සතියේදී තීරණය කරලා පක්ෂ විශේෂ සම්මේලනයක් කතා කරන්න කටයුතු කරනවා කියලා කිව්වා. ඉතින් අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා ඒකත් හම්බ වෙනවා කියලා. අපි සටන් කරපු හැම තරගෙම දිනුනේ.
කැමැත්තෙන්ම දුන්නා. ඔබතුමාලා චෝදනා කරාද දෙන්න කියලා? නෑ නෑ මම මොනවත් කියන්නේ අපි කලින් කියලා තිබ්බ නේ ඉතින්. නායකත්වය මෙතනින් අපි ගන්න බෑ කෘත්‍යාධිකාරී මණ්ඩලයට කැඳවන්න ඕනේ. ඒ සම්බන්ධව අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ වුණා. ඒ අනුව ඒ වෙනස්කම් ටිකත් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. සති දෙකක් තුනක් තුල ඇතුළත ඒ සම්බන්ධනොත් තීන්දුව తీරලා ගන්නවා.
විශේෂයෙන්ම පක්ෂයේ එකමුතුව ඉදිරියට ගමන් කරන්න අපි සියලු දෙනා කැමතියි. ඒක දන්නවා. ඒ අනුව තමයි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා විසින් විපක්ෂ නායකවරයා වශයෙන් සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාගේ නම යෝජනා කරනු ලැබුවේ. ඒ අනුව පක්ෂයේ මහලේකම්වරයා වශයෙන් හෙට දිනේදී කතානායකතුමාට ඒ පිළිබඳව දැනුම් දීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. පක්ෂ නායක ධූරයක් සම්බන්ධව අද සාකච්ඡාවක් තිබුණේ නෑ. පක්ෂ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කතා කරන්නේ කෘත්‍යාධිකාරී මණ්ඩලය අද කැඳවුම් ලැබුවේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රී කණ්ඩායම. ඔව් එතුමාගේ යම් යම් අදහස් පළ කරනු ලැබුවා. ඒ අනුව ඒ යම් යම් එතුමාගේ තිබුණේ අදහසුත් අරගෙන හැකි ඉක්මනින් ඒ ව්‍යවස්ථාදායක සභාවෙත් නියෝජනය ඇති වෙන ආකාරයෙන් කටයුතු කරන්න එකගතාවය ලැබුණා.
In the meantime, UNP's deputy leader, MP Ravi Karunanayake, had this to say about today's events at Sirikotha and the party's future plans. The parliamentarian was of the opinion that the government they formed was gifted to the opposition, and in that case they will back the government in parliament, except over the likes of the 19th Amendment.
Yeah, I think today we basically had, instead of post-mortems, we wanted to get everybody's opinion, because every one of these MPs must be elected again, so that we could ensure that we give, and also to ensure the same team and new members also brought in so that we can form a government. This was something we discussed, to put aside all our differences that we had and ensure that we come again with a rebirth. And we also decided that we will give our fullest support to the government to ensure all promises that they basically uttered during the elections to be fulfilled. So our support, not for the amendments of 19th Amendment, etc., but for the fulfillment of certain promises that they did, which needs parliamentary majority, will be given support by us. So they cannot in any way say that they were unable to do so because lack of parliamentary support. After all, it was a government that we formed. We thank the people, but we gifted to the opposition who now have formed a government.
State Minister of Defence Chamal Rajapaksa reveals that an investigation is launched into a plot to assassinate the president or his family members. A suspect arrested in that regard is currently being interrogated by Police Criminal Investigations Department.
4 persons were arrested yesterday from the area of Sidua by the Crime Division of the Sidua Police over comments made pertaining to the assassination of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa or his family members. Following which, the chief suspect among the arrestees, identified as 26-year-old Mohammad Rif Khan, was produced before the Minuangoda Magistrates Court. The court granted permission to interrogate the suspect under detention orders for 72 hours, and he was handed over to the Police Criminal Investigation Department. The other 3 suspects were released by the Katunayaka Police, with the CID launching further investigations. In the meantime, the State Minister of Defence and the Defence Secretary commented on the matter during an event worked off at the police headquarters this morning.
පොලිස් මාධ්‍ය ඒකකයේ හවුසි කිරීම සම්බන්ධව
එම හවුසි කිරීමක් නෙවෙයි සියලු ආයතන වලට මේ හමුදාවට පොලිසියට එක මාධ්‍යක ප්‍රතිසංවිධානයක්. ඔබතුමාලා ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේ ප්‍රභු ඝාතන සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොනවයි කටයුතු කරලා තියෙන්නේ? ඇත්තටම නොඑක් තොරතුරු ලැබෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ඒ තොරතුරු වලට අනුව කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා. අපි සහතික වෙනවා ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳව ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති නොවන විදිහට හමුදාවල් පොලිසිය ඒ හැම කෙනෙක්ම බොහොම කල්පනාවෙන් කටයුතු කරනවා. මොකද දැන් දෙසැම්බර් මාසයේ ආවා. දෙසැම්බර් මාසයේ බොහෝ දෙනෙක් අපේ රටේ ජනතාව උත්සව වලට ප්‍රිය සම්භාෂණ වලට සහභාගී වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම පාසල් දරුවන්ගේ නිවාඩු කාලය නිසා ඒ අය නොඑක් ස්ථාන වලට විනෝද ගමන් යනවා. විවේකයෙන් ගත කරන්න යනවා. ඒ වගේම පිටරටවල ඉන්න ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් බොහෝ දෙනෙක් ලංකාවට පැමිණෙනවා. ඒ අයගේ නෑදෑ හිත මිතුරන් සමග කාලය ගත කරන්න, නිවාඩු ගත කරන්න. ඒ සියලු දෙනාගේම ආරක්ෂාව සහතික කිරීම, තහවුරු කිරීම ඒක අපේ වගකීම. ඉතින් ඒ අපි ඒ වගකීම නොපිරිහෙලා ඉටු කරන්න අපි පොලිසියත් හමුදාවලුත් බැඳී සිටිනවා. ඉතින් අපි මේ පිළිබඳව හොඳ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් පිළියෙල කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක දැනටත් කරගෙන යනවා.
The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal to admit President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's policy document, Vistas of Prosperity and Splendour, as the national policy framework. Now, the proposal was tabled in the Cabinet by Ministry of Finance, Economic and Policy Development, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The Cabinet has further instructed to advise all ministries, state departments and government institutions, provincial councils and local government institutions to proceed accordingly. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, in the run-up to the presidential election held last month, launched his manifesto titled Vistas of Prosperity and Splendour, focusing on 10 key policies, namely priority to national security, friendly and non-aligned foreign policy, administration free from corruption, new constitution that fulfills people's wishes, productive citizenry and a vibrant human resource, people-centric economic development, technology-based society, development of physical resources, sustainable environmental management and disciplined as well as law-abiding and value-based society. The Foreign Minister of Maldives, Abdullah Shahid, who arrived in Sri Lanka yesterday bearing congratulatory messages to President and Prime Minister, expressed confidence that the special relationship between the two countries will flourish under the new leadership.
Very happy to be here in Colombo. I've just had meetings with the President, the Prime Minister, and have come out after meeting the Foreign Minister. As you would know, Maldives and Sri Lanka have a special relationship of friendship, cooperation, and people-to-people contact that dates back centuries. And my visit is to congratulate the new leadership of Sri Lanka and to build on the foundations that have been laid by the people of our two countries for centuries. I'm confident that under the new leadership we will see the relationship, the special relationship between our two countries flourish.
Is Sri Lanka facing an electricity crisis? We'll talk about that after this short break. Welcome back to the news. General Secretary of the Electricity Users Association, Sanjeeva Dhammika, reveals that there are more financial irregularities that have been taking place within the Ceylon Electricity Board. Chief among the allegations was the revelation with regards to the pay tax of the CEB's chief engineers being paid using public funds as a bonus for what he claimed was their complicity in a manufactured energy crisis during the tenure of the previous regime.
වංචා ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් අද දෙකක් අපි කතා කරන්න ගන්නවා. එකක් තමයි උපයන විට බදු වංචාව. අනිත් එක තමයි E-scale වැටු වංචාව. ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපි කවුරුත් දන්නවා අපි ආදායම් බදු ගෙවන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මේ ආදායම් බදු ගෙවන්න ඕනේ අපි ලබන වැටුපට අනුව තමයි ගණනය කරන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි මේ ඉහළ වැටුප් ගන්න ඉංජිනේරුවන්ගේ වැටුප් 2015 ඉඳලා ගෙවලා තියෙන්නේ මේ අහිංසක විදුලි පාරිභෝගිකයන්ගේ මුදල් වලින්. ඒ තමුන්ගේ ඉංජිනේරුවන්ගේ වැටුප් වලින් අඩු කරලා නැහැ. එතකොට අමුවේ මේ රටේ තියෙන නීති උල්ලංඝනය කරලා තමයි මේ මුදල් මේගොල්ලන්ගේ පඩි ගෙවීම මෙතෙක් සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට අනිත් එක තමයි E-scale වැටුප් වංචාව. මේක මාසෙකට අපට බිලියන් 1ක් අයිමි වෙනවා. මේ අවභාවිතා තත්ත්වය තුල. එතකොට මේකත් අධිකරණය තීන්දුව කළා තියෙනවා වැරදි කියලා. එතකොට නීති විරෝධී කියලා මේක තීන්දුව කළා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ වගේම විගණකාධිපතිත් මේක තීන්දුව කළා තියෙනවා මේක දිගින් දිගටම කරන්න එපා. එතකොට මේකට පහුගිය යහපාලන රජයේ කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේ වරදාන වරප්‍රසාද දෙන්න තමයි ඔක්කොම මේ පහුගිය කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය. එතකොට විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ සභාපතිතුමා, එතකොට අධ්‍යක්ෂක මණ්ඩලය මේවට ඍජුවම වග කියන්න ඕනේ. නැත්නම් අපි විදුලි පාවිච්චි කරන්නන්ගේ සංගමයේ හැටියට නීතිමය පියවර ගන්නවා කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියනවා.
Sri Lanka bid farewell to one of its literary legends. Carl Muller, Sri Lanka's first internationally published author, passed away at his residence in Kandy. Here we take a look at his life and work.
Kalakirti Carl Muller, award-winning Sri Lankan writer and poet, passed away earlier this week. Sri Lanka's first internationally published author, Muller became an instant literary sensation with his first book, The Jamfruit Tree, a somewhat tongue-in-cheek look back at burger life in Colombo. The Gresham Award-winning writer followed up with more burger-themed titles, mainly Yakadeaka and Once Upon a Tender Time, that brought many a tear of hilarity to his many fans around the world. A man of many talents, Muller was a sailor in the Ceylon Navy and then joined the army. He worked as a journalist, a teacher, and was renowned for his biting wit and being a prolific writer.
Now, the remains of late parliamentarian Ranjit Singh was brought to the country from Singapore last night. He passed away yesterday while being under medical treatment at a hospital in Singapore. The late MP's remains Council this morning for public respects before being carried to his residence in Masimbula of Godakavela. The late Ranjit Singh held several ministerial portfolios after being elected to the Sabaragamu Provincial Council in 2004 and again in 2008. Taking you to business news, World Bank chief economist for South Asia, Hans Timmer, believes that South Asia's large informal sector stands as its biggest competitive advantage in its push for economic growth. He added that empowering the sector with new technology remains the key to unlocking the closed door of the formal sector, which will in turn boost the country towards achieving its economic development goals. Hans Timmer's views came as he delivered a lecture at the forum Global Economic Outlook and Challenges with a focus on Sri Lanka, organized by the Central Bank's Centre for Banking Studies recently.
We showed that on average, exports in South Asia are only 1/3 of what they potentially should be, given the experience of all countries in the world. And so when you look at countries with similar kind of characteristics, they export 3 times as much as South Asia is doing. What we observed was that South Asian countries are not only underperforming in the markets of their neighbors, they're basically underperforming in the same way in all markets in the world. This could well be the result of the fact that many companies in the formal sector in South Asia have created that comfortable, shielded position, while at the same time the people in the informal sector, they don't have the means, they don't have the tools to compensate for that and to enter the international market. Because new technologies, they are changing markets, they make labor a lot more informal. You don't really have the kind of economies of scale that you had in the past, where you needed big factories to become competitive, but increasingly it's possible with small units linked to each other in value chain to be very competitive. So when you look at these new technologies and that big informal sector, that problem of the informal sector might actually become a comparative advantage, because there you have a lot of people who are already accustomed to work in a very flexible environment, who work in very small units. And so there are great opportunities to start rethinking now on how to organize that informal sector with those new technologies, and how to create a social safety net, not by replicating what has been done in the formal sector, but rethinking it from scratch from the informal sector. And that includes the many people that still work in the rural areas. So at some point you have to come to the realization that at least it's your task also, not just to integrate, but to set the structure that enables you to integrate. And especially as far as integration within Asia, not necessarily just South Asia, but at least within Asia, because that's where you have a lot of benefits, because that's where you can interact with other fast-growing countries, with other countries that are high growth.
Fitch Ratings released its Asia-Pacific banking sector outlook report on Tuesday, covering both emerging and developed markets, issuing a stable outlook for most banking systems in the region. Most notable from the list was Sri Lanka's own banking system outlook, which has been revised from a previous negative to a stable one.
Fitch Ratings, in their newly released Asia-Pacific Banking Sector Outlook reports, has given a stable outlook to most banking systems in the region, while 4 of the region's development market banking systems and 3 emerging market banking systems were issued a negative outlook. Sri Lanka's banking sector outlook, however, has been revised to stable from a previous negative, reflecting brighter prospects for loan growth, although the environment still remains challenging following a cyclical trough. Emerging market system negative sector outlooks were issued for China, India and Indonesia, all of which continue to face asset quality challenges. Further, the report states that China and India are also under pressure to boost earnings and capital to support their growth. It added that ratings are more resilient than the direction of financial trends in 2020, with the vast majority of banks issue a default ratings on a stable outlook. For most banks in Pacific emerging markets, the report reflects a Fitch assumption that the banks would receive sovereign or institutional support if needed.
Well, Sri Lankan shares dropped today, weighed down by foreign sell-offs and profit-taking, mainly in construction shares. The all-share price index, the benchmark index, closed down 0.73% at 6,160.38. It's the lowest since the 27th of November. Foreign selling, in the meantime, accounted for a net 27.8 million Sri Lankan rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date foreign outflows to 10.8 billion rupees. rupees. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan rupee fell 0.17% to 181 rupees and 40 to 50 cents per dollar. Here's a brief look at how markets performed today.
The secondary bond market yield curve shifted slightly downward, while overall market witnessed moderate volume. The stock market concluded the day in a red, preceding the negative sentiment for a third consecutive session, and primarily dragged down by price losses in Ceylon cold stores and distilleries. And the parcel trades made in Central Finance and Singapore Finance and contribute 28% of the turnover, and foreigners for a net seller amidst moderate foreign participation.
And we take a short commercial break. We'll return with your sports and international news. Welcome back. Taking you into international news. President Donald Trump called out on the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after footage surfaced with Trudeau seemingly mocking the President of the United States at a meeting of NATO leaders. The US President wasn't going to take it lying down, and in true Trump fashion, he called Trudeau two-faced, despite him considering Trudeau to be a nice guy.
A video had surfaced containing footage of the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking to the leaders of Britain, France and the Netherlands about Trump's team's jaws dropping to the floor during an impromptu news conference with the two leaders. A brief video was posted on Twitter by Canada's public broadcaster CBC, showing Trudeau chatting with a group of leaders, including UK PM Boris Johnson, French President Macron, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and Queen Elizabeth's daughter Princess Anne at Buckingham Palace. In response to the video, President Donald Trump called Trudeau to be two-faced, despite the US President considering him a nice guy. He went on to say that Canada had not been paying the 2% of national GDP towards defense. Trudeau told reporters later that they were not laughing about President Trump's press conference, but about the location of the next G7 summit, Camp David, the US presidential country retreat.
Also in international news, the Eiffel Tower was closed today as part of its employees took part in the nationwide strike taking place in France. Close to 700 people are normally necessary to keep the monument open. Tourists unaware of the strike's scope had taken to give up climbing the structure, settling for a few pictures or a walk in the area at the bottom of the monument. Railway workers, teachers and emergency room medics launched one of the biggest public sector strikes in France for decades on Thursday, determined to force President Emmanuel Macron to abandon plans to overhaul France's generous pension scheme. Transport networks in Paris and beyond ground to a near halt as unions dug in for a protest that threatens to paralyze France for days and poses the severest challenges to Macron's reform agenda since the Yellow Vest protests erupted. In sports, the newly appointed head coach of Sri Lanka's national cricket team, Mickey Arthur, was unveiled at a media briefing today. While conceding that success is the name of the game, Arthur cautioned that time is required to get the Sri Lankan side playing the way he wants and stamp his identity on the team.
It'll take me time to get my style into how we want to play. We're so busy this year that the currency is going to be success. The currency is going to be win, but the currency also is going to be player development and seeing players develop.
You're on a 2-year contract. What will be your objectives in those 2 years?
We're sitting in a World Test Championship. There's an RCC World 2020 just around the corner. I think the main thing for me is yes, and we had a good chat with the boys this morning. We're in it to win it. But I think for me the key is just seeing the guys develop. It's getting a consistent core group of players that can play and compete at the highest level, and then watching them develop is going to be very, very exciting. The one thing I've learned though is just to have a look, understand the culture first and foremost, and then once you understand their culture and their environment, is then to get it going in the direction you want. When we sat and spoke this morning as a playing group, we'll set ourselves realistic goals with red ball and white ball as to where we want to get to. Those are non-negotiables. I always say your intensity that you train with is what you take into a game. Excellence is my mantra. We'll train like the best in the world train.
Sri Lanka's new head coach, Mickey Arthur, also touched on his coaching staff.
Did you have a hand in picking these people, or with your consultation with you, or what?
Well, we had discussions around it, yes. The fielding coach, Shay McDermott, he had been already hired. When I spoke with Ashley, we had some consultation around the other guys. I know David Saker came very highly recommended by Cricket Australia, and I'd worked with Grant Flower for 3 years. He was one of the best batting coaches that I'd worked with, just in terms of knowledge, but also work ethic and empathy that he showed to the batsmen. So I thought he was a perfect fit for this environment. I'm very, very happy with the coaching team we have. It's quite high-powered. It's pretty experienced.
Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Thank you for watching. Good night.